All right, so for today's video, we are going to be taking a look at some Klein tools. Now, this is a kit that I recently did an unboxing video on that I found over at Home Depot. Now, the model number for this kit is, it's going to be long, so bear with me. It's D213-9NE 11055. So the D213-9NE is going to be the numbers for the Lineman plier, and then the 11055 is going to be for the wire strippers. Now, these Lineman's pliers are a part of the 219 series, which means they are not really rated to cut through hardened screws, staples, nails, things like that. They're mainly meant to cut through copper and aluminum conductors. Not to say that you can't cut through, some harder materials with it. They just don't have the induction hardened cutting knives on them, so they won't last as long. But these guys, I did pretty much done a review on both of these. I just found it interesting that this was kind of like an exclusive kit to Home Depot. You can only really find it on their website that I've seen. So I'm not sure if you're going to maybe send it to some of their online retailers, if this is like an exclusive thing through Home Depot. I'm not sure, and it did have a new sticker on it at the store, which I thought was kind of weird. I thought Home Depot was kind of phasing out Klein to bring in Milwaukee to replace it, but I guess I was wrong. So the Lineman pliers are typical Klein Lineman pliers. Now, they're newer pliers. I think they started doing this when they hit their 165th anniversary. They started laser etching the American flag onto the surface of them, and I absolutely love that. I wish they would do it with more of their pliers and wire strippers. I wish they would do it with, their diagonal cutters, their needle nose pliers, and some of their other kind of forged wire strippers out there. Kind of hard to do with these, with all the markings and stuff on them. But I'd like to see it more on, like I said, I'd just like to see it some more on their products, since they've been around for 167 years. I do really like the American flag there on the plier, which is nice. And Klein Tools, all their pliers are made here in the States. So not only they're going to have the American flag, they're also going to tell you on the packaging and on the tool that this is, made in the USA. They're proud of that. And then you do have the Klein Tools logo right there, which is nice. And I believe this J15 is going to be the manufacturing code for when these were produced. And these have the D213 series has a little bit different handle color than the D2000. The D2000s have that, I would say, more of a brighter blue handle on them, whereas the D13 series is going to have, yellow and this darker blue handle on them. Nothing wrong with these. They're just, like I said, not rated to really go and cut through all kinds of different screws and nails, staples, things like that. And then coming to the back side of this, you do have... it looks like one side of the plier says 15, and then the other side says 16, so there is a good possibility that these were manufactured, maybe I would say probably a week apart from each other, and then they were put together. That's why they have a 16 on the back and a 15 on the front, but I could be wrong. But other than that, for a pair of Klein pliers, they are super nice, and I didn't have to do anything with these pliers out of the packaging. They are super loose, as you see. They are super loose. Now, that's pretty, depending on the Klein pliers, that's pretty uncommon. Sometimes you get them like this pair where they're super loose, but most of the time they're kind of stiff. You can definitely still open them with one hand. Most of the pliers you can open them with one hand, but there is that breaking in process that you do have to deal with when it comes to Klein. And over time the tool will open up over time and use. So that is the D2000 pair of Lineman pliers. So we'll go ahead and bring in some material with that. So we got some MC cable right here, fairly commonly used around here. So these guys should be able to cut through that without any issue. So we'll go ahead and chop through that. Chops through that MC cable, like I said, without any issue. Go ahead and do that again, and then you want to move it where you get a nice clean cut with it. Now, one thing that a lot of pliers do have in common is they all struggle to cut this piece of insulation throughout the wire. Doesn't matter what brand it is. I seem that almost every pair of pliers or Lineman pliers and wire strippers always have a hard time getting this little piece of insulation cut. So it's not just this pair of pliers. I've seen it happen multiple different pairs of pliers. But we can bring in some thicker piece of that insulation and see if these guys can cut that without any issue. So they can't quite cut through all the way with one cut, but if you give it a few squeezes, it will cut through. So we'll go ahead and try that one more time. Maybe I just wasn't squeezing hard enough. And so that is one cut, and that is how far it'll cut through. So I'd say it cuts through about maybe 80% of it, and you gotta go ahead and hit it one more time with the pliers to chop it off. So definitely struggles a little bit with that piece of insulation. So now we'll go ahead and bring in some multiple conductors here. This is just from a wire pull that we were doing that was left over. Decided to take it with me. So we'll go ahead and cut through. We got, what, 5 different conductors in there, or 4 conductors, and the green would be your ground. So we'll go ahead and stick those guys there into the jaw and see if we can't cut through those all at once. And you indeed are able to cut through all 5 of those at once. And I believe Klein has a special design handles to reduce that snap feeling in your hand. Cuts through those wires pretty much like butter, and it cut through this MC like butter as well. Just have to make sure that you have it, that MC kind of placed a little bit farther back towards the cutting knives, so that way you can cut it all with one cut. So that is the Lineman pliers. Now these wire strippers, I reviewed them not once but twice here on the channel. They're a fairly decent pair of wire strippers Klein has to offer. Now they will strip from 10 to 18 gauge solid wire and 12 to 20 gauge stranded wire. And then you do have your 2 wire folding loops right there. Definitely don't recommend trying to fold or trying to loop stranded wire unless you leave that piece of insulation on there. It'll just be 10 times easier not only to loop it, but also to screw it down to your terminal or whatever you're doing. These are spring-loaded, which is nice. I definitely do prefer a pair of spring-loaded wire strippers compared to just, a standard pair of wire strippers where you have the joint and you have to kind of open and close it with your hands. Now, the one thing I don't really like about these wire strippers is I find it just my personal preference from where I put my finger. I like to have my one index finger really close to the lock here. And I find that I'll be going to strip a wire, and I find that I sometimes accidentally lock the tool, and when you're going to strip the wire, can be a little bit of a pain, but that is just me. And like the Lineman pliers, these are made in the States as well. And I also believe you can get some replacement handles for these, and or one point in time you could. I remember seeing them on Klein's website, so if the handles, fell off or whatever, you needed a new replacement handle, you could do it. And over time, the handles will tend to slide off of them, but for right now, they are fairly tight on the tool. But enough talking, and let's see what these guys can and can't do. So here we just have some 12 gauge stranded wire. Cuts the wire like it's nothing. And then we'll go ahead and strip some of that wire. Now, I like to give my wire a little turn. I'm sure that's gonna, cause somebody to freak out, but I find it easier to strip the insulation off if I give that slight turn. And as you see right there, go ahead and zoom out so you can see it. When I go to strip that conductor, my finger sometimes does get in the way and accidentally does lock the tool. That's just me. See right there, like my finger kind of gets in the way and it accidentally bumps into that and ends up blocking the tool. It is what it is. That's just, how I use it. And that's just me. So they cut and strip wire without an issue. So these are definitely a highly recommended pair of wire strippers. This is now my second pair of these. I have one pair. The other one of my pairs is in my install bag, and then my service bag, I have a different pair that has a little bit harder of a plastic handle, and I believe strips 8 gauge wire as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's another Klein one. They have like the harder handles. It's like blue and white. For some reason I can't think of the model number, but I did a video on them. Those are what I rock in my service bag, and I do rock a pair of these in my install bag. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. So I will leave a link down in the description, take you right over to Home Depot's website if you want to get yourself this kit. Or you can head down to your local Home Depot and see if your store has it in stock. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, and as always, leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thank you.